I am now.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Stacy, for starting that recording. Okay. So, for those of you who are, new to Safe Routes to School, the goals of the Safe Routes to School program are to encourage more students and families to walk, bike, scoot, skate, bus, or carpool for transportation, to educate kids and families about how to be safe while doing so, to identify the barriers to active transportation, and make engineering improvements, and to connect the community and make them aware of the benefits of safe routes to health and the environment. We have a very comprehensive program that includes education, encouragement, engineering, and evaluation. The evaluation that we do with all our partner schools, where we find out how many students are walking, biking, carpooling, taking single-family vehicles to school. This is really important data that we can use in grant applications and other types of things. And then we also do GIS mapping, showing where kids live in relation to the school, which has multiple purposes: understanding what the modes are, what potential mode shift there are, what routes should be highlighted for safety improvements, possible meetup spots for parking and walking, or walking school buses. So those maps are really essential, and we receive them for every school that we partner with, and sometimes the schools that we don't partner with if we have a MOU with the school district. We, on our education programs, countywide, we educate about 8,500 students, more than that sometimes annually. We're at more than 50 schools, 26 in Santa Rosa, and 24, 25. We do classroom presentations, we do on-bike education, we do community education and outreach. Our lead instructors are League of American Bicyclists certified, which is the gold standard of cycling education. We are very much out there educating on bike and in the classrooms. And we also have a lot of education resources. This is just an example. This is a new resource that we just developed this year, which will probably go out next year, about the new daylighting law, that we are hoping our district partners or school partners will share, and our law enforcement partners as well, so that people understand that they should not be parking within 20 feet of the approach to an intersection or a crosswalk, and that this is against the law now. And I don't know if Santa Rosa Police Department is issuing parking citations to vehicles in violation of this law. Summer can update us about that if that's happening. But in any case, it is against the law, and it is a safety issue for people crossing the street. So this is just an example. We have many other education pieces that schools can share. This is a new one. And then our encouragement programming is all about encouraging schools to do events and also share our thematic challenges to get kids to and families to walk and roll to school, and also, to understand those benefits, and and be inspired, and be thinking about and more aware of why it's so good for their health and the environment to walk and roll. And so these are our challenges for next year. We're really excited about them. We have a theme of buddy meetup challenge. In September, we're encouraging kids and families to meet up with each other and share their stories with us, so that we can share those stories out with the community. And then in October, we're going to have a new safety challenge that encourages kids to really understand and learn about safety while they're walking and rolling. And that's also International Walk and Roll to School Day, which is a countywide event that we encourage every school to register for and participate in, to give out stickers and prizes for walking and rolling. And then in November, we're doing Ruby Bridges Walk to School Day. That's a very popular event. Tons of schools participated in last year. We're doing a letter writing challenge, writing a letter to Ruby Bridges about why what she did was important, and why it is what walking to school or community or equal rights means to you. And we're going to be receiving those letters, highlighting a few of them, and also sending them to the Ruby Bridges Foundation. We have an art contest in February every year. It's Walk and Roll for Our Hearts. The artwork you see on this page is from our art contest this year, and some of the other art you've seen in this presentation is also from this year's contest winners. We do a calendar each year that goes out to the families and the kids and the parent principals and the teachers of the kids that are in the calendar. And in the spring, we're going to have a new Spring Go Green Challenge, which is about encouraging families in March and April to walk, bike, walk, roll, could be any kind of rolling, or bus to school. And they can keep track of when they've done it, and then they can just fill out a little quick online form, and we will be doing drawings in both March and April for families that participate in that challenge. And then in May is Bike to School Day. So it's a really robust encouragement program, and any school can participate in these initiatives, whether or not they're enrolled or a partner school. We send out the initiatives out through our e-newsletter, but schools that we partner with, we communicate with regularly, and we kind of track what they're doing, and they share what they're doing, and we have more of an ongoing relationship with those sites. Bike to School Day was super successful this year. In Santa Rosa alone, 505 students bike to school, which was 153% more than on a normal day. Countywide, we had a 200% increase, but if you look at this list of the Santa Rosa schools, you can see that increases were anywhere from 25% to like over 500% of kids bike to school on Bike to School Day. And what's great about Bike to School Day is it really, you know that they're really doing it because they're on their bikes, they're biking from home, and you can really see the potential for how many students, you know, could actually utilize active transportation on a regular basis if they felt safe about it, if they were motivated, if they had the skills and the knowledge. So that's what we're trying to do, get people the skills and the knowledge. And then another thing, I know Alexander's going to talk a little bit more about this, but one thing that we really work with our schools is to help facilitate them in starting walking school buses and bike trains or park and walk meetup spots. We've got 15 schools in Santa Rosa that have active walking school buses or bike trains, some with multiple routes. It's a really amazing way to build community and engage more families in walking and biking. One of our schools this past fall had a student project where students actually identified meetup spots and routes, and recruited parent leaders and teacher leaders, and they were featured in the Press Democrat. So really cool stuff that schools can do when they have the motivation and the enthusiasm about walking and rolling. On the engineering side, in Santa Rosa, we've got an amazing partnership with the city of Santa Rosa, with Alexander from Public Works, who'll be presenting in a minute, and also the police department. We have been doing walk audits since September of 2023. Those are site assessments when we look at all the schools and what their barriers are to walking and biking, and we do a report, you know, indicating what potential solutions could happen at those sites. And these are the sites that we've audited so far. We have a list, and we're going through it methodically, and we will continue that in 25-26. We may have to switch the order a bit because the county program is doing a strategic plan and they're doing a ranking of schools. So I am not releasing the ongoing list right now because of that, but we will definitely be continuing. I just am not totally 100% sure what the next school will be. Alexander will speak more about that when he presents. All right, so that's the Safe Routes program. I'm going to move on to e-bicycles, and you know, as cycling advocates, we're committed to prioritizing the safety of children. And we, as adults who are bicycling enthusiasts, we also think e-bicycles are great. You know, like they have so many benefits for people that want to travel long distance or go up hills or carry heavy stuff. So, you know, they're not bad in themselves. So we are not like anti-e-bikes, but at the same time, there are some serious concerns that about e-bikes, especially for children and teenagers, that we want schools, districts, and parents to be aware of. So we're starting here with some education, and we're hoping this can filter down to our school partners and to the parents of the students that who might be purchasing e-bikes. So the important thing about e-bike education is really must address the increased speeds and maneuverability challenges of a heavier device. So that's like first things first, they are fast and they are heavy, and that creates issues because the greater the speed, the greater the risk of severe injury. ER doctors are seeing severe head trauma and pelvic injuries similar to motorcycle crashes in e-bicycle crashes. So that's important to know. This data is from Marin County. They have much higher e-bike usage there, and they've run into a lot of issues with e-bikes. About 21% of their bike crashes are now e-bike crashes. If you look at the chart on the left, you can see just overall bike crashes by age, more 10 to 15-year-old. That's like the highest statistic of the number of people that get into bike crashes. So you just have to think about like what that tie-in is. Like, please don't have them using e-bikes because they are going to get in crashes more than anyone else, and e-bikes are more dangerous. So just keep that in mind. And so a little information about e-bikes for those of you who are not familiar. There are 3 classes of e-bikes. Class 1, The top assisted speed is 20 miles per hour and it's pedal only. Class 2, the top assisted speed is 20 miles per hour and there's a pedal and there's also a throttle, like where you push down the, you all know what a throttle, I actually didn't know what a throttle was. First I was like, what's a throttle? But you push down the, the pedal kind of thing and it just goes. And then class 3, the top speed is 28 miles per hour and it's pedal only. According to California state law, legal e-bikes must have working pedals, maximum of 750 watts, a throttle that can never, ever be altered or switched to it to exceed its max speed of 20 miles per hour on motor power alone, on the throttle alone, and a label on the e-bike designating class. And just so you know, any device that can exceed 20 miles per hour on motor power alone is not an electric bicycle. It is a motorcycle. So when people are on an e-bike and they are throttling over 20, even though there's technically a limit, if they're going over 20 miles an hour, they're essentially riding a motorcycle.
So even the class 3 is considered a
Class
motorcycle.
3 is no, because it's pedal. You pedal. So on motor power alone.
Thank you.
So anyway, so the important thing to know is that class 2 e-bicycles, the ones that have the throttle, are regularly available, often online at a lower price point than class 1 and 3. So they're the most popular class at this point. And at this time, until technology changes, they can currently be easily hacked to speeds exceeding 20 miles per hour on throttle power alone, making them illegal to ride on public roads and paths and even more dangerous. So we want to advise parents, and we would like our school partners and our law enforcement to advise parents that if you are purchasing a class 2 e-bicycle for your teen, consider disabling the throttle and or establishing rules about not adjusting throttle speed under any circumstance. The other thing we want parents to be aware of in schools and district partners is to consider buying local to guarantee proper assembly and for ongoing maintenance, because e-bikes do have more maintenance issues than a typical bicycle. So if you're getting it online and you've run into issues or there's issues with the throttle, you're going to have a hard time getting it repaired. The other thing to be aware of is that kids are kids. We hear, this is from our Marin partners, they have heard middle school students bragging that they could switch to speeds greater than 20 miles an hour. And just so you know, the average speed of a conventional bike ridden by a 14-year-old is 9.7 miles per hour. So e-bikes are traveling just like if you're going at the max speed without like breaking the throttle, you're still going twice the speed of the average speed of a conventional bike. And at this time in California and in the nation, there are no age restrictions for class 1 and 2 electric bicycles that operate to 20 miles per hour. But the Consumer Product Safety Commission recommends that between ages 9 and 12, children should not operate any product that travels faster than 10 miles per hour. FYI, Marin County did just pass a pilot law that there is an age limit in Marin County. You have to be age 16 or over to drive an e-bicycle, but that is not the case in Sonoma County. That is a pilot project. So that could be coming down the line, but right now there are no age restrictions. So what can schools, districts, and city partners do? So first of all, we have created a flyer, and an education piece. And the education piece has a couple pages. It's in English and Spanish. On the left side, we have things parents should consider when planning a purchase, like does the child fit my child's teen size and abilities? Are they a skilled rider who knows how to follow the traffic rules? We have the traffic rules on the right. Can they stand up to peer pressure? Are they committed to wearing a helmet? Check the label, all these things. Practice first. We also include pros and cons. Obviously the pros, I talked about at the beginning of the presentation, and the cons I just was talking about as that higher speed travel. They do way more than a normal bikes. They're less maneuverable. Maintenance can be challenging. And obviously there's less cardiovascular benefit and they're more expensive. They can be a target for thieves. There are some environmental considerations related to battery production and disposal, but there are some pros, but the cons for especially younger kids, something to think about. And then the other page of this flyer is just information about what I covered in the presentation about classes of e-bikes, buyer beware with the class 2, and how you can hack them. E-scooter laws, e-scooters, you do have to be over the age of 16 with a learner's permit or a driver's license to ride those. And then some resources. We have a page on our Safe Routes website now, dedicated to e-bikes, where you can find this flyer, where you can get other information. We also have links to a 12-minute e-bike safety video from Pedal Ahead. There's an e-bike safety training by the CHP, which is an hour-long comprehensive training. We highly recommend it, that youth complete this training with an adult. There's a great book that's available for purchase called the Caring Parents E-Bike Survival Guide. So links to all those resources are on that piece. And other things to consider. These are those resources I just went over. Other things to consider for schools and districts. First of all, we really recommend a site or a district letter to middle and high school students or parents regarding e-bicycles. I do have a template available on the Safe Routes to School website on that e-bike page for any district partner to download, modify, use for their own purposes. We recommend an e-bicycle parking registration policy for high schools or even middle schools, where kids need to register their e-bike so that they're, the school and the administration knows that they're riding a legal e-bike. And so there's some questions they have to answer. They have to get it checked out so that they can park their e-bike on campus. We also have a letter from local law enforcement to parents describing that we composed. Again, certainly Santa Rosa Police Department can create their own letter, but we have a template available on our Safe Routes website as well that can be downloaded by the police department and sent home to families in the ways that they send things home. We do have a Safe Routes to School Drive Your Bike online curriculum modules for generally with PE teachers will utilize these modules in their PE classrooms. They're about 10 minutes per. There's about 10 different ones on driving your bike. They're really, really great. And we're adding an e-bicycle module to that. We recommend the whole series because it's all about like learning how to ride your bike on the street and really understanding those rules of the roads, how to position yourself, how to turn at intersections, all those types of things. But then also we will have a module on e-bikes coming soon. And then finally, just request an e-bike education session. We are willing to speak to groups of parents, groups of teachers, and or teens who are riding e-bikes to schools. We prefer to focus on teens who are already riding rather than just like the general teen population, because we want to really emphasize conventional bicycles over e-bicycles. We don't want to be selling e-bicycles per se, but we for sure want to help educate. So that is our e-bike presentation, and that is the end of my presentation. I'll stop now, stop the share, and does anyone have any questions or concerns or something that they wanted to mention about e-bikes? Thoughts? Great. Well, I will be also sending this e-bike information out in the e-newsletter in the beginning of August, when we start sending e-news again. And I'm hoping that our district and school partners again will share this and take action on educating their communities about e-bikes. All right, thank you so much. And I will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is Alexander's update for the city of Santa Rosa Planning and Public Works. So I'm going to share his presentation and I'll advance it for you, Alexander. All right, I think it should be the whole screen in a second. There it goes.
All right, yeah, so I just want to present to you our active the City of Santa Rosa's active transportation update. If you go to the next slide, we're going to be talking about infrastructure improvements first, and really I want to emphasize the fact that coming to these task force meetings and then also us going and meeting you where you're at the schools and doing the walking audits is helpful information for us to be able to make improvements and potentially add those walking audit notes and the notes from these task force meetings to, apply for grants and use that in our grant funding towards installing infrastructure improvements that make a difference for the kids walking and biking to school. If you could go to the next slide. So this is just, a quick photo of Lincoln Elementary. We went there in January of 2024, and sometimes the improvements take a while to take fruition and I mean, come to fruition because, either we don't have funding or there isn't a project in place at that moment to get things done. But this is something that happened this last spring where our internal crews just had a project where they were resurfacing the roadway. We asked for them because of feedback from our walking audit, where the principal there said that people are constantly parking in the bike lane. And so what we ended up having them do is add a buffer to the bike lane, which actually adds more space. And then through that thoughtfulness of thinking about the walking audit, and trying to keep people from parking in the roadway, in that bike lane, which would stack into the actual travel lane and create, people maneuvering into head-on traffic as well. We added delineators, and the delineators, are pretty simple. They're just plastic, like bollards or vertical elements in the roadway, but they stop people from actually parking in that spot and creating that backup and creating more of the issues, especially at that crosswalk there. So it's a great improvement that was made during that because of the walking audits, and it's very helpful to have the walking audits. Some other improvements that are going to be happening in this area through TDA Article 3 funding. So we did a grant that was pretty much that is decided at our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board meetings. They get to decide what projects are funded through this funding source through SCTA. We're going to be adding some RFBs here. So those are the rapid flashing beacons. I forget if we're doing one or two, but at least there will be some improvements there at some of the crosswalks, either here, and I forget, this is Simpson, or at Rockwell. If you could go to the next slide, please. So earlier this year, we went out to R.L. Stevens, and there were plenty of things out there that the folks during the walking audit asked as improvements. One of the things was at the signal at Stony Point Road in Giffen. A lot of the left turning movements coming off of Stony Point Road and on to Giffen, because there was a permissive, so that's where you have a flashing yellow arrow or a yield sign. Folks were turning on to oncoming walkers across the street, so students walking across the street. So what we did was we changed the timing there, just a simple improvement, but it helps a lot, and we made it a protected. So a protected signal is where you only get the green arrow only, and people can turn that way only instead of being able to turn while people are actually walking across the street. So that's a helpful time base. So we do it during just a certain time during school pickup and drop off. But it helps the safety of the kids walking across the street. What you can see in front of us right now was an idea of doing a pop-up event. So we did a pop-up event where we installed crosswalk markings across the roadway. And this is something that was brought to our attention during the walking audit as well. We added cones, which those cones on either side at the crosswalk shortened the crossing distance and also made the road feel narrower for people driving along the roadway there. So we actually, as we installed it, before we installed it, people were driving really fast through there. And then as we installed it, people started to slow down, and it made it more comfortable for students walking across the street. Obviously, I was there, holding a stop paddle to stop folks there. But this is something that'll help our future grant funding potentially. One of the simple improvements that we're planning on making at this location is just to add delineators on either side because of the roadway. So like I said, the vertical element, and striping just the sides, because that's something we can do without having to install the curb ramps to make this a crosswalk that is permitted. So we can't just put signs out, we have to put curb ramps, and then if we wanted to make it an RFB, that would be a total cost of $25,000-ish. That's an estimate. With just putting some delineators in it out, it might be a cost of like $500. But it's still very helpful because it definitely slows people down. It makes the road feel narrower. And then if students are crossing there, it gives them a shorter crossing distance to cross. next slide, please. So, I just wanted to bring up Montgomery High School. We went out there and did a walking audit as well. And so there are plenty of crosswalks at this location, and through, like I said, the walking audits really help inform our grant funding. So our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board asked for us to look at schools that were impacted by the upcoming changing of schools and closing of schools. So we are using that grant funding to improve the crossings along here. I think there's going to be a couple RFBs. So it's like I said, the flashing yellow lights to help people notice kids crossing the street. And then we'll also be shortening the crossing distances with curb extensions at multiple locations. So like I keep saying, these walking audits are very helpful to inform and help with grant funding. If you go to the next slide. So just another thing that came from actually this task force, and this happened before we did the Roseland Elementary walking audit. At one of these task force meetings was the crosswalk, as you can see it's the west side. So this is West Avenue and Sebastopol Road. But the developer of, I think, the Boys and Girls Club was supposed to help fund the crossing here and install the lights and the walk sign and the don't walk sign at this location, along with the developer that's developing that whole land where like the Mitote was and where the Dollar Tree store was. But because we thought it was an important improvement and a lot of kids were already starting to walk there, we were able to get some funding and add a crosswalk there so that kids could safely cross the street, because a lot of kids were crossing the street there, even though there wasn't a crosswalk, even though there wasn't a light for them, a walk or don't walk sign. So that came from a task force meeting, and it's something for us to all be proud of, because these little improvements, I guarantee you, are saving lives out there. Next slide, please. So here's a slide of Luther Burbank Elementary, and here we were really trying to engage with not only folks that were working at the school, but like the kids coming across, and we're trying to work with a local community group. They're called Friends of the Greenway. And one of the things in the walking audit was the kids going to and from like the Sebastopol Road side of town, right? And going under the freeway along the Prince Memorial Greenway and the creek. They didn't feel comfortable in going across there. So we're trying to look to make like a walking school bus. So we're still trying to work that out, and maybe Mitch can pass that along to the next folks, the next principal that's going to be working out there, and we can partner with them to make that come to fruition. But I just wanted to show like this intersection particularly. So this is Sonoma and A Street, and we plan to add curb extensions there. So another form of those delineators where we put them out in the roadway so people don't park, and you got that daylighting that Christina talked about earlier. It's a way to make sure that people don't park in the red curb area. A lot of the projects we have, right, they come through from the walking audits. It takes a while for us to make them happen, and then we also have to talk internally to see if it's possible to make those projects come to fruition. If you go to the next slide. So another thing that I think is very important and is something that I'm willing to help out with and go to your schools and help try to create this program, we'll call it, is bike buses and walking buses. So if you could go to the next slide. At the French American Charter School, there was a teacher that they helped create a program where his kids would go out and they, through Google Maps and through, I think, the GIS maps that Christina's group helps create, they figured out where there were routes that kids could get picked up along. So creating a biking school bus, right? And they would have meetup times at certain locations that were more communal and more central to each one of the neighborhoods. And then they would ride in together as a group. And that creates a sense of community, and it encourages working together. It encourages getting to know your neighbors. So I've had a lot of times where we've been at these walking audits where someone looks at the GIS map and sees a dot on it and says, hey, I don't know who this person is. It's living like right next to me. We could probably partner with them. It's almost like creating some kind of carpool type scenario where you're like, oh, someone's close to me. Let's go together to the school and drop off our kid. And then you eliminate, vehicle traffic on the roadway. Obviously, it creates less traffic at pickup and drop off. It reduces environmental impacts, and it has health benefits, right? It's better for your physical, mental, and social health, and can have also set the tone for lifelong habits for well-being. Go to the next slide. Actually, if you want to go back, I'm sorry. I wanted you to click on the link on the bottom.
Oh, sure.
So I just wanted to show you all like.
Oh, is this, I think I have to stop this sharing.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, I think I can do that. Let me just stop this.
But what she's going to bring up is the different routes that they created, and they created a Google Doc at the French American Charter School, so that you could sign up for each one of these walking or biking school buses. I actually went and rode with them from, I think it was the Blue Line, and they came from all the way from Sequoia Elementary, and it was actually a very comfortable bike ride, which I was surprised coming so far from, one end of town to another that it would be, but there was a lot of shared use paths that we went along, and then very slow speed roadways. So like I said, if there's interest out there, I would really like to partner with schools. This is I think this was a program that was developed in a 5th or 6th grade class. Sixth grade class.
And Evelyn is here, the principal of French Charter is here, if she might want to.
Okay.
I'm definitely interested.
Yeah.
This is
So
Laurel, yeah.
I'm trying to work with the teacher that I met. I think it's Matthias.
Yeah.
I mean, and he said that I could come into his classroom and I could help out with the project next year potentially. But it's very, it's kid focused. They lead the project, and then at the end of the ride, they have some communal time to hang out and congregate with other students that are riding as well. It was
Yeah.
I thought it was a very cool project.
We all were so excited by this. And Evelyn, I mean, thank you for, you shared it, and Sarah, our parent champion there, shared it with me so that I was aware, and we shared it with the president. We just thought it was so cool, and we didn't even know that 6th graders could do that. Like we parents do that, and teachers do it before, but just having the kids take the lead with like that was just so inspiring. And we are sharing this information with all of our school partners. But it does take that special teacher, or that group of kids, or that, that school has French Charter, as Evelyn can attest, has some strong parents, and they also have done walk and roll like every month, for the past couple of years. So those kids in that class are very aware of, walking and rolling, and like that this is a school initiative, and that they wanted to support it when they were asked to do a green, a project supporting Earth Month and Bike to School Month. So
Is there like a little handbook that describes how the whole project was implemented? I mean, I'd be happy to help create that handbook.
Yeah, that would be great to have a handbook. It was, we each class had a Earth Month challenge, and so that was the 6th grade's challenge. And they took it on themselves, and it was, pretty organic, but also with the French theme, because obviously it's supposed to look like the Paris, the metro in Paris. So yes, Tina's absolutely right. It also, the parents and teacher were amazing supports for it all, but the kids really ran with it. And so they did not create a handbook, but I think the examples of the maps really show, how it can be done.
Yeah, maybe the Google Doc would just kind of describe how it's done.
Absolutely. I
That's what
think,
it looked like.
yeah, with what was already produced, I think it's pretty reproducible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah.
That Google map, the one that I shared on the screen just now, we did share that in our e-newsletter in May with all of our schools that receive the e-news, all of our partners whose schools get the e-newsletter, and a number of other schools that, just are getting it, receive that. So you can access that link, and yeah, I mean, we can show you how to make a little map like that. It's just a matter of like, where is the meetup? Let's figure out, use Google Maps to create a map, and yeah.
And then Tina will get this presentation too, so we'll have access to that Google Doc.
This presentation, both of them will be posted to our website, to the Safe Routes Task Force.
Beautiful.
And then the only other piece I would add, just if you are going to implement it, was a lot of communication the week prior, right? Because we had to put out, obviously a lot of visuals in the front of the school, as well as, parent square messages and all the rest of it. But it did require a level of communication.
Yeah, and again, that also is a testament to Evelyn, because she's supporting, I'm sure Evelyn is supporting those communications going out. So, I mean, this type of project requires not only, like the teacher to be, and some parent support, not necessarily, maybe you could do it without a parent if you had a strong teacher and like a engaged student group, and a very engaged principal, but you do need to have, you need people to recruit to be leaders on the Bay Train. And I think there were parents and teachers that were leaders. That's fun, but I think we need to move on. So just for time, do you want to go to the next slide?
Sure.
Okay.
There you go. You can go to the next slide. So just, continuing the conversation of our ongoing efforts, and we're looking for funding sources. Obviously, like I said before, this year we're using, it's called TDA Article 3 funding, and that's something, a funding source that we get from SCTCA. It's very helpful. Our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board is the one that allocates that funding or decides on where that funding goes. And this year we actually, what we do is we propose 3 options to them. Well, the school funding project was not on the list. We didn't realize that, the community had an appetite for that, but it unanimously was passed. And so in the future, if you would like to support this funding going to, school projects, you could always come to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Board meeting when that happens, and we can send that email or that info out to Christina, and she can disseminate that information. Another way we are able to, improve infrastructure around where, the schools are is through our slurry and pavement maintenance projects. So we went to Comstock Middle School, and I know that school could be going away. I'm not sure the ins and outs of how the school districts decided things yet, but there is a couple spots where we didn't have RFBs, so like the flashing lights to notify, cars that someone's crossing. And out in front of the school on Steel Lane, we're going to be adding those as part of our next pavement maintenance project. So the walking on it definitely helped us inform those decisions and which crosswalk to put it at, because there was a student there and he told us which crosswalk was used more. So that was very helpful. And also the crossing guard as well kind of let us know. So another thing we have is SS4A funding. So it's Safe Streets and Roads for All. We have a project where we are going to be, sorry, I'm trying to get the stats up, but we're going to be influencing like 48 miles of roadway. So we're going to be adding curb extensions at crosswalks and using paint and delineators to shorten crossing distance throughout the city. So that's 48 miles of roadway potentially, you know, at 194 signalized intersections. I say potentially because it depends on if we run out of funding for that, but I think it's a little over $1 million that we have to use to do these spot improvements. But hopefully it will have an impact to everyone throughout the city, and it'll make it easier to walk and bike around town. You want to go to the next slide?
Uh-oh. What happened? Oh. I don't know what just happened. Let me just make sure there is that. That was the last slide on mine. I don't know what happened.
Okay, well, I can just talk about it. So
Okay.
the SS4A grant happens every year, and so we're applying this year to the program again, and hopefully we get funding. What we're trying to do is help create like a circulation plan around you know, the Roseland district area, so around a bunch of schools. And so we use that information that we gathered from our walking audits, and it was helpful in this grant application, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with solutions. I know on like West Avenue, and then also on Burbank Avenue, we have a lot of ongoing issues. Yeah, and what we're trying to do through the grant is help get funding to have either a consultant come in and help us with engagement and figure out how we can help slow the speeds down in those neighborhood areas, and then also make it safer for people walking and biking in those areas. So I think the pink area, right, is an area of persistent poverty. But yeah, we're just trying to focus on that Sebastopol Road area and see what improvements we can do and have a full plan for that area, especially as I know it keeps getting developed and more people are going into that area. It's getting densified, obviously, through the project that's happening on West Avenue. So it's going to bring a lot more people in, but there really isn't a way to get north-south besides the smart path along the railroad tracks by bike, or really, you know, it's not that comfortable to walk around either because the sidewalks are very narrow. So we're just trying to figure out what's the best way to get people through these neighborhoods, and we might look at, you know, traffic diverters and things of that nature to slow speeds down as well in these different neighborhoods.
And I just wanted to say that this image here is from I know they submitted it as part of their grant application to show not just the project area, but like where students live in relation to the project area. And we couldn't have done this to show the density of students that are traveling, like without the partnerships we have with the school districts, where we're creating those GIS maps, and we can share that data with the city of Santa Rosa so that they could then create this map. So again, like, I hope that they get this funding, and I hope that this map is impactful for the people that are reviewing your application.
Yeah. Really neat to see.
So, did you have anything else in your presentation?
That was it.
All right, we are running short on time. Thank you, Alexander, so much. We're running short on time, but Sergeant Gloeckner, if you have anything that you would like to share related to safe routes and what the police department is doing, whether it's about enforcement of daylighting or any OTS grant that you have, or you know, enforcement operations that are happening around school zones or e-bikes.
So yeah, so with our resources, as far as daylighting is concerned, I haven't been seeing a lot of citations being issued for it. Typically, and maybe the city can speak to this, but I was told that some of the streets are not being marked as far as being for daylighting concerns. But if we do get a complaint, we'll go check it out, and either officers or field and evidence technicians that we have, or our community service officers, will go out and check the issue, and sometimes just issue a warning. I like the information that you presented on the e-bikes. I actually think I hadn't done a lot of research myself on e-bikes. And so I think that's something we'd be interested in putting out over our social media pages. And I was just curious how many kids you're actually seeing riding e-bikes, if you had any kind of like data on that from schools? Like, is it mostly traditional bikes, or are are a lot of kids riding the e-bikes? Um, and then right now, school's on a hiatus, so school just got out. So, when the fall hits and it starts ramping up again, our motor officers are always happy to go out and participate and handle school complaints as they come in for, various things that we're seeing. I know the walk audits at a couple of the schools really show like the illegal U-turns parents are making. And so we like to, go out there and just have some enforcement, even if it's not just to issue citations, but also just to give warnings and remind parents to follow the laws and stuff, especially in areas where, little ones are walking and riding their bikes. So that's what I have. But yeah, I think we have a really, just watching your presentation, an interest in doing something about the e-bikes. I think that would be a really, especially maybe save it a little bit closer to school time when school comes back in session. But I think that would be some good info to get out there.
Yeah, and let me know also what else we can create. Like right now, we just have this, this flyer, but like, we could create some social media images with, it's a lot of information, but like just thinking about, or you can use our content to create your own social media.
I was actually thinking about maybe you just kind of racking my brain. Our press information officer, she's great at creating content and videos. Of maybe have an officer kind of showing the differences of the 3 types of classes of e-bikes, and then talking about how, the class 3, you have to be 16 to operate, because I don't know, parents might just buy these bikes and not really understand those things. So I think that would be good info to get out there.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't have statistics on the number of Sonoma County students. We are seeing an increase, like just like we even had like an elementary student, a 4th grader, show up to a 4th grade bike rodeo with an e-bike or with a shop. There's only one.
Yeah.
But I know, and again, as e-bikes become more and more affordable, I just imagine they are going to become more popular, and they have been more popular in Marin County, and they have been seeing some serious issues. There have been some very serious crashes and with students on e-bikes there. So I'm just trying to head off the problem here. I'm hoping that like as a community, we can like get that word out so that parents are educated.
Yeah. And I think it's hard with the young ones too, even if, regardless of it's a regular bike or an e-bike, understanding the rules of the road, right? Because, you look at like what the expectation of e-bikes are and bicycles is they're a vehicle on the roadway. And so they have to obey the laws the same way vehicle traffic does. So all that's important to get out there. So I just think doing something that talks about the e-bikes, but also talking about, having kids understand as best they can kind of the rules of the road when they're, I'm assuming most are using sidewalks to ride on, but some may not be. And so that's going to be important to prevent collisions on our roadways.
Well, and one of the things that I think is kind of the most impactful understanding of e-bikes is the difference between braking a traditional bike and braking an e-bike, and the knowledge that if I want to stop at that stop sign, I have to put on the brakes significantly differently because of the speed at which I'm going.
And the weight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So so that's really what we have going on. We're facing budget cuts just like a lot of places are. So we're slimming down our traffic team a little bit, just because it's just the way it's got to kind of work out right now. So, but again, when we get the complaints or we get, these events at schools, we will have some officers that will be able to attend. Just, working with Sergeant Medeiros, he likes to go do all the school events and try to get involved as possible. So we will be there. We just might have a few less of us being able to do that.
Sergeant Gloeckner, you said that you're going to be rotating out of traffic, but Sergeant Medeiros will continue to be our main contact within traffic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And Lieutenant Ludke will be rotating out in August as well. He's going back to regular patrol. So I can get you the contact for Lieutenant Marin, who will be becoming the traffic lieutenant.
That'll be
He's great.
And we'll continue to invite you to the walk audits. I know that, you know, you have a lot of competing priorities, but when you can attend, when the officers can attend, it does help. They often have insights, you know, our engineers or our parents don't have, and can be super helpful. So thank you.
Okay.
To attend. Laurel, did you have your hand up? I saw you go like, yeah.
Yeah, the town of Windsor has done a ton of public announcements about e-bikes. Fortunately or unfortunately, the group of students who I taught skills to about 10 years ago are now riding e-bikes around town. So, that's what we get. Teach them how to do it. But you know, there's a lot of like postings on Parent Square for Windsor Unified, and there's stuff going out to the city. So the town of Windsor is a great resource, is my point, because we have a lot of kids doing that.
Check
Great.
out
The town is flat and it's small and everybody lives nearby. So, anyway, we're offering that.
We have a little bit more time, but not very much, but there is a opportunity if any district rep wants to share a concern or just make a comment, an opportunity that you think may be available for partnership with the city or Safe Routes. Now is your chance. You can raise your hand or just take yourself off mute and say something. Anybody?
One of the things that I'd like to share is that I know that Caritas Village in August is doing an open house for all of the families who are living at the village. They generally do a tabling event. And one of the things that I always think about when I'm seeing our younger students out riding is that many of them either don't have helmets, don't have legal helmets, or don't have very current helmets. I know I was very guilty of letting my kids wear bike helmets until they were falling apart. And they're just not as safe. So I don't know if you have any donors who help with the cost, scholarships, or assisting with costs of bike helmets. But that would be a great resource for a lot of our families.
Caritas Village. I mean, if you want to connect me. So with the way our helmet distribution, our helmet program is primarily through our 4th grade bicycle rodeos, because we do have a partnership with Providence Health Foundation where they pre-purchase helmets for us, and we get donations from the students and give them back to Providence. It's like like a agreement. So our helmets are not an allowable expense under our federal contract. So we can only get helmets when we have some kind of sponsor.
Understood.
But you know, I mean, when we have opportunities and we can table, sometimes we can go to Providence, or CHP also can be a resource. At times, different law enforcement agencies have gotten grants where they've had helmets. SRPD, maybe not right now, but in the past they have had helmet supplies that they've been able to give out. So we often will reach out to law enforcement agencies to see if they have helmets available for certain events. So just let us know. Absolutely. Any district like Jason or Raul or Mitch or Evelyn, you know, when there are opportunities for us to do community outreach, if you're aware of a school event or community event that you feel like would be beneficial for Safe Routes to have a presence at with our table and our education, just email me and we will do it if we can. We can't always do it, but that's definitely something that we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You should loop me into that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you everybody who is here. This meeting, again, from the point of the beginning of my presentation, has been recorded, will be posted. I will be sharing it out with everybody in the city of Santa Rosa, all the leadership, and hopefully they'll check it out. But we will continue to communicate with our districts and schools about these initiatives. And we thank all of you for being here, and we thank all our partners who have worked with us this past year.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, that was nice. Roseland, so I'll represent them.